Hello, class. This will be the conclusion of section 3.5, which is the graphing techniques. So let's just jump right in and do the last one, which is talking about reflections around the X and Y axis. And so this is the idea of actually a mirror type of image around one of the two axes. And so basically what you want to do is that if you want to reflect around, oh, yellow, reflect around, say, the x-axis, right? Say like I have a point here of x equals 0, y equals 1. How do I reflect around the x-axis? I want to change the value of y, right? So that would be 0 minus 1. And the same thing happens when you reflect for the x. And so let's do the y first. So to do that, here is our definition. We just change the sign of the output or the y variable. So basically you take your equation or function and you just multiply it by -1. And then that will reflect it or mirror image it around the x-axis. So for example, if we start with y equals x squared, and we take that function and multiply it by -1, so that would be, in this case, f of x equals minus x squared. So when you take a look at that, the black is y equals x squared, and you can see the blue is flipped right around the x-axis, and that would be y equals minus x squared. So same thing with reflections around the y-axis. If you do it and think about it the same way, when we reflect around the y-axis, so like I pick a point here, 1, 0, and I want to go to the other side over here, that would be -1, 0. So the same thing happens. Instead of changing the sign of the y value to flip around the x-axis, you change the sign of the x variable to flip around the y-axis. So let me show you that here. And so what example did we pick here? Square root of x. So here we change from square root of x to minus the square root of x. So here we're flipping around the y-axis. And if you take a look at this, the black is y equals square root of x, and you can see the blue is y equals minus square root of x. So, you know what I think a good way to end this is let's walk through an example and kind of show you, started here. So let's start with this equation here, and I'll try to do all three of the things that we talked about. So if you look at this equation, it starts, or graph, excuse me, it starts by looking like this, right? So say like the first thing we do is let's do one of those vertical or horizontal shifts. Let's do a vertical shift. So if we did this, y equals x squared, and we say add 3 to it, what ends up happening? Well, it's a vertical shift, so we move up 3. So this is what the red one would look like. So it would look like this. Okay, so let's do something else. So let's do one of these compression, or let's do a compression. Excuse me. So say like we want to do a compression, let's take the red one now and multiply it by 1/2. So what does that do? Well, we still start at the same point, but now we kind of cut it in half. So compression would look. Hold on one sec. So I wrote the compression wrong here. That's actually an expansion, right? So let me erase that. get this back up. Okay. So if I go back to the green, what we're doing here is actually, it'll be expanded this way. And what we mean by that is that the values are slower in growing, right? Because if you think about it, let me just throw in a couple numbers here. Sorry about that. But say like in the red one here, if x equals 1, what does y equal? Well, y would equal 4, right? 1 plus 3 is 4. So on the green one, if x equals 1, what does y equal? Well, in this case, it would be 4 minus 2 is x equals 2. So you can see what we mean by the compression and expansion aspect of it. And so, let's do one more. So let's do a reflection. So let's pick one more color. Let's try orange. So let's now reflect. So let's multiply by -1. So what does that do? That reflects it around the x-axis because it changes the sign of y. So what we would do is we come down here, instead of starting at +3, we start at -3, and again, it would be looking like the green one. So it would be out like that. So you'll see in this homework section that you'll have a chance to do a few of these types of problems. So one thing that I would recommend doing is you could have Desmos handy to make sure you could check some of your work, and that's what I did. And you can see that, whoops, I typed it in wrong. That's a 3 over there. So I change that to a 3. You can see it kind of looks just like the sketches that we did on the whiteboard. So that ends the recorded lectures for section 3.